All right, thank you for everyone for joining us. We'll call this meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody can please stand. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very nice, thank you. Ms. McGee, if we could take roll, please.
Chair Jeff Quizell,
Present.
Vice Chair Victoria Firestone, she is excused. Commission Member Eugene Ramirez,
I am here.
Commission Member Al Bogue,
Here.
Commission Member Hunter Chang,
Here.
Alternate Zilla Tobiano.
Here.
All right, our city officials present are Police Chief John Encontro, Fire Chief Mario Rueda, and Public Works Director Michael Throne. Our council delegate present is Vice Mayor Susan Jacobowski.
Thank you very much. As required, the agenda was posted 72 hours prior to this meeting at the City Hall, Crowell Public Library, and the Recreation Department. It was also posted on the city's website. Now is the portion of the meeting where we allow public comment on anything that's not on the agenda. If anyone has public comment, I invite them to make themselves known. And if you do give comment, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone from the public have any comment? Mr. Dustin, 3 minutes.
Hi. Good evening, Chair and committee members. I just wanted to briefly bring an issue to your attention with the problem of excessive speed on Houston Road. In the eastbound direction, there has been installed improved signage, which has helped with the problem. But if you drive the entire distance of Houston Road in the westbound direction, there is not a single sign with the posted speed limit the entire distance of Houston from Sierra Madre Boulevard all the way to Virginia Road. So just past Oxford Road, there is a signpost on Houston, but there hasn't been a sign on the post for many, many years. So I think it would be helpful to have at least one posted speed limit sign in the westbound direction, particularly along the library frontage where speeds tend to be the most excessive. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dustin. Director Throne gave his thumbs up, so I expect he will look into that and report back to us on that issue. Are there any other public comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing no other faces pop up, let's move on to commissioner reports. Are there any reports from any commissioners to inform the public of any meetings or conferences they've attended since the last meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on to department reports. We'll start with Chief Encontro, the police department report.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commission. You have our report. We just wanted to make you aware that this Friday we have two police recruits graduating the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department's Academy. It'll be November 5th at 10 o'clock. They are not having any public attendance. Otherwise, I would be inviting you. And myself and Commander Blondet will be attending that. So we're eager to have these two new recruits join our ranks. One is a female, and she was a civilian for UCLA PD. And the other is a male, was a college student. And both have done outstandingly well during the academy. So we are only down one person. We have 27 of 28 or 30, which is our extra authorized strength. So we're doing quite well. Things are slowing down a little bit for us as far as applicants for police officer at this time. We were able to file 10 cases for detectives through Alhambra District Court. We are keeping a record of the declinations from the DA's office. Met with DA Gascon last week at the LA County Police Chief's strategic planning meeting, and that issue was brought up regarding his directives, and said that he has been changing the way they'll be doing filings with the DA's office. Traditionally, it's always been the local court. For us, would have been Alhambra. Those DAs would make the decision on filing cases. Now he's going to a centralized filing. So he'll have a group downtown. Again, his emphasis is on violent crimes. And as we pointed to him, that most of us have a concern because most of our departments have problems with the increase in property crimes. Although we're still down for the year in all the property crimes, we have seen an increase over the past month and a half regarding those burglaries and larcenies and things like that. We did have a town hall last week which we co-hosted during the day with the Chinese Club. We had a lot of people, about 45 people or more met with us during the day last week, I think Thursday at about 1 o'clock. And that was a pretty good success. And we're going to work from there to do some other things to bring awareness of larceny cases. That's my report. If you have any questions or other things you would like to know, please ask.
I see questions. Sorry, Commissioner Ramirez.
Good evening. Thank you, Chief. I think since our last meeting, there have been a few promotions at the department that perhaps you could share with us. I think that's the people who are promoted are wonderful, and I think we should share that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. We made 2 sergeants. Vince Wilson was a corporal for us. He grew up in San Marino, went to San Marino High School, was a baseball standout. And also last year, his baseball team went to a championship series for their age division. So he's a very good coach. And that coaching carries over in how he handles his training of his people. And we're looking forward to that. The other person that was made sergeant was Jeremy Bestpitch. Jeremy's been with us several years, I think about 8 years now. He also works part-time at Rio Hondo as a class DI. So he's getting exposure to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And again, that helps his, the way he leads people. We promoted 2 captains, I'm sorry, 2 corporals. One of them is Juan Salcido, and the other is Jose Corney. Both of those officers came to us from South Pasadena. They had been our motor officers. And so our motors are taking a little hiatus. However, I have 2 officers that are stepping up, Leroy Abington and Jason, and I can't remember his name right now, and I don't know why. But Jason's, Jason was one of our cadets, and Leroy came to us from South Pasadena. And I was able to make 1 commander, and that commander is Tim Tebbets. Tim has been with us for 24 years, I believe. And we're excited to hit him. He's in charge of operations, and Kevin Wu from patrol to be my assistant administrative sergeant. I'll be interviewing for my admin assistant. If you notice that Vanessa is not here with us. She chose to go to another department, and we wish her all the best. Thank you.
I will say that your 2 new corporals were in a class I taught recently for field training officers at Rio Hondo, and they comported themselves well. It was a pleasure getting to know them and talking to them.
Thank you. And we will be making 1 more corporal promotion. Unfortunately, Brian Wong, who again is a longtime resident of the city, parents are still here, he grew up here. He has decided to go to the LA County DA's office as an investigator. It is providing some stability for his family, and mostly day watch hours. And Kevin Cordici, who's been a detective for us for about 2.5 years, will be taking his place as a corporal, and Kevin's a standout.
Thank you, Chief. Congratulations to all of them, and they sound all like fine officers. So thank you for that report. Commissioner Vogt.
Chief, I had just a couple of questions. Would you comment on the 12 burglaries in September?
Yes, 5 of those occurred in one night. One was a commercial burglary. A window pane was broken. 2 of the other 4 occurred when residents were home. One was a window pry, and the other was an open window that came in. In both situations, the suspects were in a very brief period of time, and I'm not sure what was taken in either one of those, because on one of them, an alarm was activated, a motion sensor alarm, and the suspects left right away. The other 2, one home was a vacant home, and on the other one, I don't believe anyone was home, and neither one of them had an alarm. We have not been able to find a pattern that there's anything really similar. We have not been able to identify any suspects in those burglaries at this moment. But we are working with South Pasadena, had arrested 2 people for burglary bordering our city that they may be involved. And we're working on leads on those with South Pasadena on those 2 suspects. That's one reason why we put out the video right away. And we also have the town hall with the Chinese Club and as a co-host. There was no, the reason we had it with the Chinese Club was just great partnership with that great organization. And there's nothing pointing to any suspects targeting any group, racial or ethnic group in particular.
Well, thank you. The reason I asked, of course, in looking at your statistics, this was I hope, an anomaly. It was an extraordinary month, unlike any other month we've had. Could you also comment on and you may have actually already done this indirectly, with regard to traffic citations issued in September, less than half the number in June, and we seem to have a definite decrease in citations issued month by month. Do you attribute that to anything in particular? Are people becoming more aware of traffic rules, or do we no longer have our motor officers on the road?
The motors just recently left their positions. However, there is a requirement that we provide our officers with perishable skills training. And that training involves use of force, driving, firearms, several other training areas, and they have to go to another location to be trained. So that takes up about 24 hours of training time. So we have been putting a lot of people through training in the past couple months. So that's, and also with August and July, we had vacations. So trying to put up, make up for that. And then unfortunately, we will have our motors out of service for a short period of time, but we will be pushing, and so will Tim Tebbets be pushing our patrol personnel to write more tickets.
Well,
Also, things are, we've had a decrease in the amount of traffic collisions too. So
yes.
that shows that we're doing quite well.
Well, I hope it also indicates that people are becoming more aware of the speed limits that have been set and some that have been changed recently. And I also commend you, and I guess this really is to Director Throne, but I'm sure the 2 of you coordinate on where you place the speed signs and the speed monitors, the trailer and the like, and I'm guessing that has had an effect. If I see it, I certainly am alerted.
People are slower.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to dominate here, but I've got one more question.
Sure.
That has to do with the catch and release program that apparently our district attorney has implemented. Have we had any sense of the impact of whether people who are being cited and released are actually showing up when they're supposed to, or are being prosecuted? Is there any information that you have on that, Chief?
Sure, as far as the number of prosecutions, we're working on that. From our discussion with the DA last week, we are looking specifically at repeat offenders. We are looking at suspects who are released by one city. Are they going to another city and committing the same crime? For right now, for the most part, it's a zero bail unless it's a serious felony.
Yeah.
So it's on an automatic release after we take them to the Pasadena jail for booking.
Right.
We are looking at the zero bail issue on a countywide basis through the LA County Police Chiefs. That became one of our initiatives during last week's strategic planning meeting. And we're trying to find out if the number of people being released are continuing the crime, that recidivism is increasing, contrary to some of the beliefs of the DA, where there's actually a decrease in recidivism. One of the problems is there are no drug rehab and mental health facilities really active where anyone goes from court and is sentenced to those type of facilities. There was a fairly good op-ed piece, I believe, in the LA Times yesterday, where a person who'd been an advocate for the homeless, especially downtown, was talking about the need to have these drug rehab facilities and homeless shelters in place. That there is no training, there isn't anything available for them, especially drug courts. The drug courts in place a couple years ago, you were sentenced and for sales or possession of more dangerous drugs, and then you were put into a drug court that would cause you to go to a rehab facility. That is not happening. And we did spend some time talking to the DA about the need for that and where is it. But we are working on these initiatives specifically as a county-wide.
Well, thank you. If there's anything we could do to help you, I know we would.
Election period might be a time to help. Probably get in trouble for that, but you know.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Hey, Contro, just as a follow-up to some of Al's questions, I noticed that you had in the last 30 days had a virtual neighborhood watch meeting via Zoom. How is the neighborhood watch program fared through COVID? Is that?
It is a little bit effective. It is very difficult to really get a good feel for the community. The face-to-face meetings are very good, although the one last week was, I thought was extremely well attended and was very good. People listened. But one of the things I talked to Danny Gutierrez, who's a sergeant that oversees our neighborhood watch, is I've asked him to start spinning up the meetings in person and also doing the same with Coffee with a Cop. I'm also bouncing around some ideas to steal from my my peers in other cities of Coffee with the Chief, even some meetings with the chief to try and work on those things. Also, we've had good support in the past from the PTAs at various schools where we've been able to handle or do a Coffee with a Cop, and also to meet with them. And so we're going to keep trying those. We're going to look at a lot of different in-person meetings now, because it will be much more effective than the Zoom meetings.
Wonderful. Do you as a department have, I don't know, a map or a list of where the neighborhood watch operates, such that we could target places where it doesn't operate and see if we can recruit people into that?
Yes, and that's one of the things we're doing before COVID. And hopefully now that we can start having meetings. I don't know if you recall, we had 2 or 3 neighborhood watch meetings where we just set up a table in the street. One of them was, I think, Houston and Cambridge, perhaps. And we had a good turnout because we didn't have a neighborhood watch group there. And I believe we were able to develop a neighborhood watch with 3 people willing to be block captains for the neighborhood. So we're going to try some and do some of those things too.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners for Chief and Control? Seeing none, do I have a motion to receive and file the police department report?
Move.
Thank you, Al. Second? Thank you, Eugene. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks like everybody. Anybody opposed? Nope. So that motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on then to the fire department report. Chief Rueda?
Good evening, commissioners. You have my report in front of you, but I did want to point out a couple significant areas. This past week, we completed the homebound vaccination program, and we had the recreation department beat the bushes. We contacted all of recreation department seniors that they had listed. We contacted all of the previous recipients of the vaccine that we had provided, and resulted in 24 residents, and we went door to door and provided those. And again, these were the people that really couldn't leave their home. So it was really a rewarding experience for the firefighters. Just to update you on the numbers in our city. So for all adults, we have 86% of our residents vaccinated. For all seniors, 65 and over, it's 99%. And a startling number, all eligible teenagers 12 to 17, we have over 98% of those in that age group that have been vaccinated. So those are really good numbers for our city and bode well for us. I just wanted to touch on a strike team deployment. Dave Tannehill, one of our firefighter paramedics, was dispatched as a fire line paramedic to the Dixie Fire. It's in the Plumas National Forest. He was there for 21 days and assigned to logging crews from Oregon. And he really becomes their medical resource in one of the most dangerous tactics that's employed on wildland fires is cutting down these partially burned trees, sometimes 4 or 5 feet wide. And he becomes their medical resource. So it was really a rewarding experience for him. And then the last 2 days that he was up there, it was raining. So that was actually what put that fire out. But it was welcome relief for all the firefighters deployed. On October 21st, we participated in the Great Shakeout, which is now really worldwide exercise to remind people of the appropriate tactics during an earthquake. And I shared a review of our plans here in the city, walked all of our both public safety and the other department heads through their responsibilities. And then we conducted an exercise using an earthquake along the San Andreas. Although unfortunately, we have several other earthquake targets we can choose from. The Sierra Madre Fault, the Raymond Fault, but our biggest risk comes from the San Andreas. It's capable of a very large earthquake, and San Gabriel Valley, sitting on sediment, would experience very large shaking in the event of a very severe shaking in the event of a large earthquake. And lastly, we sent Captain Dominic Petta, firefighter paramedic Jeff Sy, to Indiana, Elkhart, Indiana, this past week to do the final inspection for fit and finish on the fire department's new ambulance. So it passed with flying colors, included a picture in the report. The only hiccup with taking delivery at this point, which we found out today, was lug nuts have been recalled by Dodge, who's the manufacturer of the frame. So we're waiting to see what the solution is going to be to that. But otherwise, we're expecting a brand new ambulance here, and we'll have a christening, so to speak, when it does arrive. And I'm thinking probably around the first of the year. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Did you say lug nuts were recalled?
Lug nuts were recalled by Dodge.
Interesting.
So it hasn't had 1 mile on the speedometer, but all the lug nuts for the Dodge truck chassis that the ambulance box is actually mounted on have been recalled. So,
Wow. Commissioner Bowe, I saw your hand.
Just a quick question. Will the unit be transported by the manufacturer to Santa Fe Springs and delivered in their facility here?
yes, it will. I think the last, not 2 ambulances ago, that they drove it here, and unfortunately the engine blew up on the way back here, and it presented lots of headaches and trying to figure out who was actually responsible for that. So this one will be shipped, but there are many agencies that drive their fire trucks back here to Southern California from as far as Wisconsin.
Well, we're fortunate that they have the facility in Santa Fe Springs, so hopefully it'll pay benefits to us.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks like a very nice rig. That's exciting.
I just one follow-up question. I've had citizens ask me what's going to happen to the current backup ambulance. Do we know what the plan for that is yet?
I have not been approached by any outside or inside entities to do anything other than send it to auction as we do with other surplus vehicles. But I know in the past, different organizations have asked for apparatus to send to different places, but as it stands now, that'll go to Public Works and then be auctioned off.
Thank
Part
you.
of our process.
Any other questions for Chief Rueda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to receive and file the fire department report? Thank you, Commissioner Chang, second by Commissioner Ramirez. All in favor of the motion? That looks unanimous. Motion carries. And we'll move on to the Public Works Department report. Director Throne.
Thank you, Chair Bruzel. I just wanted to go briefly over my report. You have it in front of you. We're taking care of our normal business. There's really not a whole lot of change from last month, with the exception that the council did approve a design contract for this year's street resurfacing project, and we'll be meeting with the engineer this week to get them started there. And then in good news for the department, our new Public Works manager started today, and I will be bringing him to the next meeting so that you can get a chance to be introduced to him. He comes from from the city of Azusa, and we're very happy to have him. His name is Mr. Chris Gutierrez, and there he was their facilities manager, and now he'll be looking over our public works operations, fleet, streets, and parks. And that concludes my report.
Can you talk a little bit about the caution watch for signs? I noticed that you have a small paragraph about it in your report. I also noticed them popping up around me, in particular at the corner of Mission and Euclid. I'm wondering how those get assigned, who chooses where to put them, what we what they look like, what form we choose. That one I think says watch for pedestrians. This one in your report has a bike and a man walking. So
We have two different kinds. One is the yield to pedestrians and crosswalk. And those have specific locations that you can place them. So we're going to be selecting those based on if there's a crosswalk without a traffic control device, which would be a stop sign or a traffic signal, we can place those. And then the diamond shape sign that shows the bicycle and the pedestrian, those we've been currently using those in lieu of the signs that we placed during the COVID period last year, which was caution, watch for, and there was a whole list of things to look for. We would put those on barricades on certain streets in town, just to sort of give folks a reminder that the street is being shared with other modes of transportation. We have been putting those diamond signs up along the roadside to get them out of the center of the road, but we've also found that they're not being very effective because they're not being seen. So we're experimenting with placing them on barricades on certain streets at the crosswalks. They're an approved sign. The sign that we were using last year that said caution with a whole litany of different things to watch out for, those aren't approved signs. And so we've retired those. We'll probably use them somewhere else where we're not on a public street. The other signs are the approved signs, but as I mentioned, they're not as visible when they're off on the roadside. So we're looking for those low speed streets that we get calls from the residents and say, hey, can you put some of those signs there? And we've got a handful of locations. If folks are interested in that, they can just contact Public Works through by giving us a call or shooting us an email, and we'll go out and take a look at it and just route those past our city's traffic engineer to make sure that they're okay, and we'll get them installed.
Thank you. So I think you answered this. Is the placement of them mostly due to recommendations or requests from residents, or is there some sort of interaction with the police department to figure out where incidents might have occurred? I'm asking because right up here, where the ones that I'm referring to are not on an uncontrolled intersection. It does have stop signs, plus it has the signs in the middle, barricades, I guess, in the middle of the crosswalk. I know it's a highly trafficked area with the bike shop right there, and also I'm just curious how that process, how those intersections are chosen.
Well, it is a combination of both things. We do get reports from our colleagues over in police, but primarily it's driven by the residents who are looking for a way to highlight that there's pedestrian activity going on their street, and that it's not meant to be a 30 or 40 mile an hour cut through. Although we do ask the police department to go out and use their radar speed trailers. Those things are only deployed for a while, and then they move off. So these signs are a little more permanent. They're not typically affixed to the pavement. They're on barricades. The feedback that we've received from those locations where we've installed them is that they work. And actually, one neighborhood on Cumberland, we actually had moved the signs over onto streetlight poles, and they said, it's not working with them over there. They really need to be back in the middle of the street. So we are doing these different things to try to find the balance that what works. Over on Mission Street, the yield to pedestrians in crosswalk, we're going to move those signs. Those are not exactly the best sign to use in that location. So we're going to do something a little different. I expect to bring you a report or just an update at your next meeting of how we're going to highlight the stop condition at that intersection. It is sort of a sensitive intersection just because there's a lot of businesses there, and there's a lot of traffic and a lot of pedestrians. And we also really don't want to make a giant, ugly Public Works sign display. So it is a balance. Chief Incontro and his folks do a very good job policing it, but there's always, they're not there 24 hours a day to do things. So there are some things that our traffic engineer has suggested that we should try. We're gonna try those and see what kind of improvement we can make to really highlighting to the drivers that there are, folks on the road that have the legal right to be there crossing the street. And of course, California pedestrians believe that they have a force shield around them. They can just step off the curb and cars will magically stop. So that's not always the case. And so we're trying to prevent those regrettable intersections of pedestrians and cars.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Director Throne? Seeing none, do I have a motion to receive and file the Public Works Department report? Commissioner Bo, thank you very much. Second? Commissioner Chang, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous. Motion carries. So we'll move on to new business.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our October 4th, 2021 meeting? Commissioner Bo, thank you very much. Second, Commissioner Ramirez, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous again. So that motion carries. Moving on to item number 5 on the agenda. Second, under new business, discussion concerning possible police department beard and tattoo policies. Sorry about that. Chief Incontro, you can be a commissioner too if you want.
I'd love that. I would love that. As I said, last week was we had a 3-day meeting in Temecula with the LA County Chiefs, and it gives us all an opportunity to talk to each other about trends within our departments, within policing itself. And I've also been looking at ways to improve the potential of recruitment of police officers. Tim Tebbets, who's my new commander, was a sergeant when detectives, and he was tasked with recruitment. And one of the stories that Tim talks about is recruiting veterans. Our military veterans nowadays, oftentimes, once they're completed their career, their time with the military, keep their beards. And also they accumulate tattoos during their enlistment or in their time with the service. Also, a lot of folks have tattoos. And we're trying to figure out, my thinking, my paradigm is 42 years old of becoming a new police officer. And talking to my son, who is a 4-year police officer with LAPD, also with my wife, who's on a police officer, and others about what am I going to do to try and get new police officers. Glendale PD, in fact, this is where I got both of these policies. They have begun a pilot program with beards, and they have also begun a pilot program with tattoos. However, their program with tattoos is only within the station and not in public view, where eventually they will be approved if officers follow the rules. And you can see in both policies some very strict ideas on what would be a permissible tattoo. And for your reference, we would not allow any tattoos below the wrist, including the hands, the top of the hands, the bottom of the hands, the fingers, the thumbs, or also anything above the neckline. So there would be nothing on the neck, the head, the face at all. We're talking primarily sleeves on the arms, and that's the term is sleeves, if you did not know. And with facial hair, I'll go with that one, which is fairly easy. The beard could not be more than 3/8 of an inch long. And also the officer in an emergency situation, such as having to wear a gas mask, is required to maintain a razor and shaving cream and or an electric razor to have it removed, so they are able to have a gas mask fit properly. And every year the officer has to have their gas mask fixed. The beard would not be below the chin line, which is this area here. So we wouldn't see anything down below the neck, down towards the chest, obviously neatly trimmed. And if you are in training or if you're on probation, you would not be able to have a beard. With neither of these policies have gone to the city attorneys. We are merely trying to get a feeling of what would be acceptable, what would not be acceptable, areas of concern. If I can direct your attention to the tattoo policy, there is quite a bit of talk about in the rules of what would be appropriate and what would not be appropriate as far as the types of tattoos. Obviously, anything that was extremist in nature, anything based on race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, etc. Anything in violation of law, anything that would be more towards depriving people of their rights, anything that had nudity or offensive to modesty, decency, racist tattoos or groups representing racist, white supremacists, any terrorist organization, any tattoos that would be sexist in nature, anything that'd be contrary to what we would do as a law enforcement officer, and also things about specific groups. It would be up to the chief of police, or there could be somebody else that could be the arbiter of what these standards are. We've also taken a look at what the Marine Corps allows. They've had a tattoo policy in place for quite a while. And with that, I'm just asking for your opinions, your thoughts, whether or not we move forward with this. And again, a lot of it is allowing our officers a little bit of leeway. We do have 2 officers. No, we actually have 4 officers that I know of that have to cover up their sleeves, their arms right now with their tattoos. And I've seen their tattoos. One is mostly Walt or Disney characters, which is interesting enough. Another one.
Would those pass? I'm just curious.
I don't like Mickey Mouse that much, so who knows? The other is a family portraits on their arms of people who passed. They're more of memorial type tattoos. And the other arm is more directed to their culture, dealing with Pacific Islander. There is a lot of issues in allowing tattoos. An officer's tattoo can be used against them in court. It could show that they have bias towards certain people. They are prone to having bias or prejudice to others that can become problematic in court. We do understand that, and that is something that it's why I respect Commissioner Ramirez's comments on this. We've talked about this a little bit already. And again, I'm looking for ways to recruit some good people. We lost some good military. I know of 3 people that we lost from the military who had tattoos that would have been permissible within this policy. The former military, as I said, and just trying to keep us competitive in a way with other agencies in the area. If you go to Northern California, you go to the East Coast and parts of the South, a number of police agencies allow beards, especially in Northern California. So I'm open for questions, comments, thoughts. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez, I would expect you to have some comments.
Let's start with the beards. I'm not opposed to it. I understand. I'm seeing it more and more among my state, local, and federal agencies. And it's just, and I understand the recruitment and retention issues in the fire and the police departments. I talk about it every day with law enforcement agencies. Our organization's having the same problems. They're always looking for new ways to reach out and retain people. So I'm not as adverse to the facial hair policy as I am to the tattoo one. And as you and I have discussed, I have seen every potential offensive tattoo known to man. I've been doing this for over 40 years now, representing law enforcement. I have a relationship with a Tier 1 special mission unit assigned to JSOC. I've seen all these tattoos. I have defended law enforcement officers with some very hideous tattoos. The sheriff's department is notorious for spending tens of millions of dollars in settlement of cases and losing verdicts because of tattoos that allegedly are assigned to each and every individual station, each and every specialized unit, as are other agencies. The FBI is now investigating the LA County Sheriff's Department because of deputy clicks centered on tattoos. There is new legislation outlawing deputy officer clicks, and one of the signposts of that, if you will, are tattoos and what do they represent. So generally speaking, everybody has a First Amendment right to put whatever they want on their body, and I personally don't care, unless it becomes something that's going to impact the liability of our city. And the skulls, the jurors don't understand the skulls. They don't understand the camaraderie of specialized units and people that work together in a dangerous situation. They just see it as glorifying force or death. And those tattoos that would glorify racism, sexism, or the use of deadly force are, of course, of great concern to me because I've dealt with it and I deal with it every day. I don't know if that's a San Marino way to have our officers tatted up. That is a concern to me. I have seen policies to start one way and then they start to get mission creep, so to speak, and it starts extending and extending. Pretty soon we don't have a policy. And having worked with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation over the years, if I were to match a correctional officer with an inmate, sometimes you can't tell who's who because their correctional officer was heavily tatted, as are the inmates, which I've always disagreed with. So that's my concern, just because I've seen it in its worst possible way. And I've had to explain it to jurors, and we've paid a lot of money out because jurors don't understand the significance of it. And my concern is, I don't know, as a resident of San Marino, if I want to see my officers all tatted up. Now, if they cover them, I don't care if it's 120 degrees out there, they better have long sleeves on. I could live with that, but I just don't want to encroach any further than that. I recognize the issues you're facing, so I'm trying to be open-minded. It's just I have a different experience with them than possibly others on this commission and in the city. So, but you and I have talked about it, and you know where I come from, and everybody from your agency that's been through any of my training sessions know how I feel about that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Bo?
Chief, obviously you're proposing a new policy. That implies we have a policy now. It may be unwritten, but would you comment on what our policy is now? And secondly, will the adoption of a policy need to be negotiated with the police union?
Your first question is, we do have a policy. We have a policy that prohibits facial hair except for mustaches. And then the second, we have a policy that prohibits the display of tattoos on your arms or anywhere else that can be seen and would have to be covered up by your shirt. Nothing is allowed on your neck or your head or face.
Before you go on,
Yes, sir.
The new policy actually, with the exception of beards, mirrors the existing policy, right? The new policy says you can have a beard.
Yes.
And it also says you can have tattoos, but they have to be covered, which is what I understand you to say is the current policy.
Well, the current policy does allow for tattoos that are covered.
Yeah, and the new one
Right.
does as well, right? Did I misread that?
No, this one would allow them to be uncovered. They would be able to be on your arms for the most part. Or if you were wearing shorts on duty, but we don't have shorts, but if we did have shorts on duty, they could be seen. I think all of you have seen the tattoo I have on my calf. And that's the American flag that I have on my calf.
Okay,
But,
so the difference would be the new policy says you would need to cover your tattoos with your sleeve. So
With the sleeve,
that's actually a more restrictive policy than the current one with regard to covering arms, but less restrictive with regard to beards.
Well, they would both be less restrictive. The tattoo policy would be allow them to be seen if you have them on your arms, where now you are not allowed to have them shown.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
thanks for clarifying.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah. And the second question had to do with, is this a policy that the department or the city council can adopt, or is it a policy that would need to be negotiated with the Police Officers Association?
I believe we'd still have to have a meet and discuss with them to tell them what we're doing, because technically it may be a change in working conditions, but again, I would leave that up to our labor attorneys.
Okay.
And before we move forward, but I've had preliminary meetings with members of the department, from those board members of the Police Officers Association, and then others who are not. I wanted to get their ideas before I even bothered to move forward with it. And they're in favor. Not everybody is going to get tattoos. Several people were pretty adamant they would never get any tattoos. And some of the men have said they are not interested in beards. So I don't see every person in the department having beards and tattoos if we allow.
Well, I'm sure that Commissioner Bozell would be in favor of beards.
I don't like the beard policy at all. Just gonna go on record. Although I was told the last time I spoke to Chief Incontro that my beard does not qualify for everybody because it's a little too long.
It is a little bit too long. And it goes below the chin line.
So I am violating the policy. That said, Chief, I think I have asked you this before, but what is the benefit of the beard policy? I know you said recruiting is the ultimate benefit, but is the difference between covering up and not covering up these tattoos, is it mostly an issue of comfort during the summer, or is there more to it than that?
Well, it's several things. It's obviously the comfort. Do not have tattoos on my arm, but I don't like wearing long sleeve shirts, even during the cold times of the winter. So there's the comfort issue. There is obviously the issue of recruitment. There is the issue of a change in standards within our society, that we would be consistent with the number of people that younger people, but even older people like myself. I mean, I didn't have tattoos until actually got engaged to my wife. But it's just a different, level of standard of acceptance. And, if we could have officers who do comport to the rules, it's the expression of themselves. As I indicated, one of our female officers has sleeved tattoos on both arms. One of them, it's a memorial to family members. The other is a direct reference to her Pacific Islander heritage. And both of them are not offensive. They are, in fact, the one for her Pacific Islander heritage is very beautiful, very well done. And then the other officer with the Walt Disney characters and some other things directly related to his military time is a reflection of his past and his passions. And in times there's, having tattoos can help you relate to a suspect, a person in the field. Although, like Commissioner Ramirez indicates, seeing someone heavily tattooed with tattoos similar to people in the prison population or hardcore gang members is nothing I would ever approve of. And sometimes that style is just on the surface is offensive because of what types of things are included. So that's why I wanted to make this much more restrictive. And it may be that we'll have to do something similar to what the Marine Corps did. I just recently, they came out with a new directive of what was acceptable, and I briefly went through it. There was quite a lot of good information, and there may be a panel or a group that takes a look at it and makes a judgment rather than myself, because I certainly wouldn't want the fading of the rules to occur, or the blurring of the rules to occur based upon one person's opinion.
Am I correct, though, Chief Incontro, that the policy that you've created or are proposing here in our packet is designed to address many of the issues or potential issues that Commissioner Ramirez raised about clicks and other things?
Yes, absolutely. One simple thing, the LAPD SWAT insignia or logo, that's a picture of a eagle holding a lightning bolt. There could be an argument that the lightning bolt is similar to the pairing of two lightning bolts for the SS of the German army during World War II. There could be a parallel there. There could be some other parallels with other things, but with our department, we're very small. We don't have special groups. We don't have special assignments other than being a training officer, detective, or a motorcycle officer. And those don't generally lend themselves to very creative tattoos or insignias or logos.
I personally have some mixed feelings about this, mostly centered around Commissioner Ramirez's comments about, I guess he called them tatted officers, seeming, to be similar to prison population or gang members. You've said that you would address that. Obviously, you wouldn't propose ever allowing any such tattoos. Do you have plans to more widely publicize this? I raised that because I suspect that with the demographics that we have in our city, that we need to get a little bit more buy-in than the 6 people on this call before, and maybe even the city council, before we move forward with such a plan.
No, you are the first step in a many-step process. I wanted to get kind of a tone and tenor and your thoughts and your judgment and opinions as I move forward, or it could even just be stopped. It's just something I wanted to bring forward and get your thoughts.
Commissioner Bowe?
If I may, Chief, first of all, I would thank you for taking the steps you've taken. I think it shows forethought, and I think it's appropriate. I would also encourage you to consider to continue to obtain input from others. I think that having a policy such as what you propose, is appropriate. I recognize, as Commissioner Ramirez has pointed out, we might inadvertently find ourselves with some liability that we can't foresee or expect. But I think that you should go ahead. Personally, I would encourage you to go ahead and get other input, possibly from other segments of the community, maybe some other age groups, maybe some of the older community members. People my age might think differently than I do, but there may also be younger people that think differently than I do. In fact, everybody may think differently than I do, but I commend you for what you've done, and I think that we should definitely move forward with developing the policy. And if it turns out that the community comes back and says, this just doesn't sound like San Marino, then I'm sure you would propose something that does sound like San Marino.
Absolutely. I've been here for nearly 7 years, and I want my officers to reflect the standards and the values of the community we serve.
And I think they do, and I think that's part of what makes this such a good police department and such an effective police department. that
Thank
they do respect the community, and I hope the community respects them as well.
Yes, thank you.
And Chief Incontro, I agree with Commissioner Bo's eloquence and his sentiment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chang, did you have something?
Thank you, Chief Incontro, for bringing this up. Just wondering if these two policies, they're kind of separate and discrete, right? It sounds like the beard policy might be less maybe controversial and maybe can go ahead on its own if that helps with recruitment at all. And then the tattoo policy, I guess if it's the guidelines are set and it's it's enforceable, whatever, not too much gray area, we probably can go ahead with it. But I don't know that we need to tie these two issues together. Maybe we'll move ahead, and if it helps, just to allow the beard issue to move forward.
No, they can be bifurcated without a problem at all.
Commissioner Bo.
Just one other question, and this has to do with the general impact of any departmental policies and procedures on other policy or on other departments. Do any of our other departments have policies dealing with beards and tattoos that would be maybe inconsistent with what you're proposing? Do we know what the other departments are? Or do they have policies that are either consistent with or inconsistent with this? We've got two other department heads here. I sort of
Public Works
one or
has,
the other might say something.
yeah, Public Works does not have any specific policy, Commissioner Bogue. We follow the city's dress code.
Is the city's dress code consistent with this policy, or is it not? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
I believe it would be consistent with the beard policy, because we do have employees with beards. As far as the tattoos, it may be different, but again, this is the first go round.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking, and I will be talking, and I have already spoken with Dr. Marlowe on this.
Okay.
Commissioner Ramirez.
I can imagine the Public Works developing a tattoo of somebody cutting down a tree, but knowing all the tree lovers we have, they would find that offensive as well. We couldn't win.
I have worked I have managed some departments in other locations where we did have a facial hair policy. And that was specifically because some of the utility work that we were required to do, we needed to have air masks to wear when we were cutting certain kinds of pipe. So I did require that particular department to have a fit test every year on all of their employees. And beards did come up, and there were a handful of employees that basically left the department because they would not shave off their beard. And so I do not have that situation here at San Marino, because we don't do that sort of work where we would be required to have anything more than just normal PPE.
Anybody else? Chief Incontro, is that helpful?
That is very helpful, and I appreciate it. And I'll continue to move forward and see, or rather continue to gather information prior to moving forward.
Okay, we'll look forward to hearing about the progress of that.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to receive and file the police department's report on beard and tattoo policy? Commissioner Ramirez, thank you very much. Second? Commissioner Chang, thank you very much. All in favor? Everyone, yes, thank you, Commissioner Chang. Everyone is in favor, so that motion passes. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. Does anybody have any items that they'd like to suggest for a future agenda? Seeing none, Do I have a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Bo, second by Commissioner Ramirez. It's good enough for me. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
directors and chiefs.
Thank you.